In this video, I'm going to explain what it takes to properly clean up your painting equipment when you're using acrylic paint in the A112 classroom here at Squalicum High School. It's super important for your brushes because if you don't, they get really hard and crusty like this and they're almost impossible to repair. So you don't want this to happen because that will ruin all of our brushes. So this one, for example, somebody used it for gesso. They didn't fully clean all the way, all the bristles. They just cleaned the tips. And now there's a bunch of really hard dried paint and you can see that it won't move at all. It's no longer flexible and not really very useful as a brush anymore. So same thing happened here. Somebody just left this with some paint in it. You'll notice that if there's some paint around here, it's a pretty good sign usually that there's still some stuff in there. So unless it looks totally clear in there, probably needs some work. The first thing you're gonna do whenever you go to clean up your supplies, whatever it is, it's brushes, the paint palettes, dishes, palette knives, you're gonna remove all the excess paint before you rinse them. This is gonna make sure that we're also preserving the sinks. We're not washing it down a bunch of extra acrylic paint into the environment. And we're also not leaving globs of paint in the sewer system and in the sink to dry later and then end up clogging the sewer system. So again, acrylic paint turns into plastic when it's dried, and it can dry in the pipes as well. So we don't want that to happen. So you're going to first remove the excess paint from your brushes, from your dishes, scoop it out, clean it off of your palette knives, and then of course your palette itself. Just get rid of as much of the excess paint as you can. There may be a little bit left, that's okay. The next step is to start rinsing things off. I find that these green scrubby pads work pretty well. So for example, with the palette here, works pretty quickly if you just get one of these green scrubby pads. Even things that are dried on there, you can scrape off this way. Make sure that there isn't any leftover paint, because if you leave paint in the palette and then put it into the drying rack, it'll get all over everything. And all over the other side of all this stuff. You also want to clean the bottom, just in case it was stacked on somebody else's palette as you cleaned it. Sometimes there's paint that gets along the lip, so clean that as well. Palettes, I'm going to put them in the drying rack like a plate. Use the supports, that way they dry. There isn't any water that stays along the edge here or inside here. They can dry fully that way. Do the same thing with all of your other tools. You can use the SOS green scrubby pad, rinse that stuff off. Dishes and such go in the main big area on the drying rack. Palette knives and brushes go into the silverware area. You can use the SOS pad to clean the brush ferrule off, this metal part. You don't want to pull too hard though, because you can pull the whole brush and ferrule mechanism off of the brush. So if you hold that part, you can get the excess paint off of there. Another thing that's good is not just rinsing it off, but also applying some pressure to the bristles as you work it through the water. There should be no color coming out. That's the area that people forget often, is to rinse the interior part of the brush out, all that excess area there, the belly of the brush, what holds all the liquid. When you're done, bristle side up in the silverware area. Same thing here. With bigger brushes, tends to have more paint in the belly of the bristles. So you have to spend more time working the bristles to get all that blue paint out. And you can see now that it's rinsed and cleared. These brushes will dry in a good condition and they won't be crusty for the next person. If you leave your brushes over here, like laying in a stack, they may get a bunch of gunk on them. They may also start to rust. So it's good to place them here in the silverware drying rack. When you're done with the green scrubby pads, you can scrub the sink out really quick, rinse that off, and place it on the side of the drying rack. That's all you need to do clean up, but this will help keep our space clean, keep our materials in good condition so that they last for a long time and that you have the supplies you need when it's time to paint.